JJ, the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. Hey, thanks for tuning in. SBA FAQs came out last night, and I'm going to go through them with you. If you want to follow along, go to the body of this video and click on the link to grab the SBA. We're going to walk through them fairly quickly, some good info, and then got my fountain behind us.
JJ, the CPA, has been serving thousands of businesses for the last 27 years.
Hey, hope you're doing well. Forgot my mic. I think you'll feel like this is outside, so got some traffic behind us. You can hardly see it. Beautiful view here behind us, so maybe the view will make up for maybe not being studio quality on the sound. Who wants to watch videos all the time that are studio quality? Hey, if you're not a subscriber, I'd love it if you would click it. So we're going to go through the SBAs. Basically, we've got three aspects here, and I'm starting on page 5 of the SBAs, which is from the link here that I provided. A little bit of wind going on. So what they're making clear, which I think's kind of odd, to be honest with you here, but they're indicating that if you are less than a 5% owner of a C Corp or an S Corporation, you don't have to be treated as an owner. Here's why I think that's odd, is that everywhere else since the beginning of time in the tax world, which is where I originate from, it is a 2% shareholder. So the reason that this is key and a little peculiar is that up until now, everything that we've been referencing, we as in everyone, not just JJ the CPA, has been about a more than 2% shareholder. So if you have a client, if you are a business owner and you have a lot of owners in your business, be aware of this, because if they are less than 5%, you don't have to treat them as an owner. And why is that important? Well, you don't have to then limit the amount of their compensation to what they were paid in 2019. So we know that there is a lot less availability of including payroll costs and health insurance potentially and retirement benefits for owners. Again, this is for the S Corp and the C Corp. I guess, boy, the hurricane, I'm up in Oklahoma, must be making a difference here. The eligibility, we may have to just go inside. We'll try it. We'll keep going. The eligibility of certain non-payroll costs for, yeah, we'll go inside. Okay, moved it inside. Usually when this happens though, the lighting's either gonna be weird on me or it's gonna be clear on the fountain. So we're gonna have to go this way so that you guys can at least see me. Now it's gonna look like white skies. So the amounts attributable to the business operation of a tenant or subtenant in this PPP forgiveness calculation. So what are we talking about here? If you are subletting the real estate that you own or that you rent, this applies to you. So if you're not subletting, this does not apply to you. So if you're renting some office space, goes through a great example, and it cost you, in this example here, $10,000 per month, and someone is paying you $2,500 a month, you're gonna basically not be able to include anything that the subletter is paying you, or another way to put it is you're gonna have to net out what you're paying less what it is that you're getting paid by the subletter. Now, if you're looking at for those that own, it's going to be the same thing, but only related to the interest. Do you get to have a deduction? What's very interesting here at the bottom of 6 is that for related parties, so when we're talking about related parties, we're not talking about mom and dad to son or daughter, right? That could be what we're talking about in related party, but more what we're talking about here is that if you own a business and it's renting from a business that owns real estate and you own both entities or 50% or more, this applies to you. So if you're not self-renting, then this doesn't apply to you. But this one is a slap. This one's a slap in my opinion. And the reason it's a slap is that the amount that you get to deduct for PPP purposes here, or the amount that you get to include for PPP purposes here, is not the rent that you're paying per se. Okay, they word it very carefully here, so if you're not really paying attention, you miss it. But what it's indicating is, yes, you can deduct the rent, but only to the extent of the mortgage interest paid by the related party, the related company. What does that mean? I own a entity that owns the real estate. Now I have my CPA practice. My CPA practice is paying rent to the entity that I own that owns the real estate. So if my rent is $3,600 a month, I don't necessarily get to deduct or include $36,600 a month in rent. What I get to include is the rent to the extent of the mortgage interest that my company has on the real estate that I'm renting. So in an example there, I'm paying $3,600 a month to an entity that I own for the real estate I'm officing in. But if the entity that I own doesn't have mortgage interest in it, I'm not going to be able to include any of my rents. Big fat goose egg. If the entity that I own that owns the real estate that I'm renting from, and it has $1,000 a month in mortgage interest, then I get to deduct up to $1,000 of my rent, or I get to include $1,000 of my rent per month to the related party. Now, if you're not related party, right, you're just paying rent, you're good to go, right? There's nothing in here that says the rent's limited to this dollar amount. There's nothing in here saying that the mortgage interest is limited to this dollar amount if it is not to a related party or to a commonly owned company. Now, also addresses in here related to the self-employed. And what it indicates is that yes, you are able to deduct. There's really no reason to jump up and down on this one, and I think this is why they finally are like, you know what, let's just let it happen. They will let you to deduct a portion of your utilities and your mortgage interest that you pay on your house to the extent that you're taking a home office. So the first thing to note is that this is for the self-employed. The only person that can do a home office, okay, under these traditional guidelines here is the self-employed. Who's a self-employed? Schedule C. So for those of you that have a corporation and you have a home office, I'll address you in a minute. For the self-employed, who's 99% of who this is going to apply to, for the self-employed, you first have to qualify to have a home office under the IRS rules. Second, it needs to be something that you are claiming as a deduction either in 19 or if your business is new, you will claim in 20. So you have to qualify for a home office. There's really no reason to honestly ask any questions about this, and I'll tell you secondarily why. But you do get to take whatever it is that you get to deduct on your Schedule C for the portion of the interest and the utilities. Now, when you're taking a home office, you take your square footage of the house and the square footage of your office, and you can't even go hog wild here. Okay, it has to be a room dedicated. It has to be a room that if you're an employee, you know, this ain't applying to you at all. This is for self-employed. So this has to be where you're conducting business, you're meeting with customers and clients, you don't have another office. And even if you're like, oh yeah, I get the home office, I have the home office, I have it. Okay, cool, great, good for you. I'm glad, I'm happy for you, okay? I'm telling you this, 27 years, a home office deduction has never yielded much more than about an $800 tax deduction. So without going through all the ins and outs of that, here's what I need you to know. If you're a self-employed individual, you shouldn't even need to worry about and or take any of the home office deduction, i.e. the utilities and the mortgage interest related to your house, because for the self-employed, for the easy form, you're taking line 31 of Schedule C divided by 12 times 2.5, that's your forgiveness amount. If your line 31 is the same from when you got PPP to when you're doing the forgiveness, it's an automatic, boom, 100% forgiveness. It doesn't even apply. Like, I don't know why anybody would even go through the hassle, the calculation of figuring out how much of their home office can be included, which would be a fraction of your home interest, a fraction of your utilities. So if you have a 1,000 square foot house and you have a 100 square foot office, 10 by 10, can't be really much more than that, then 10% of your house you're using as a home office. So 10% of your mortgage interest, 10% of your utilities you get to include in your PPP loan forgiveness, okay? It's nil, but it's irrelevant because you don't even need it. That's why it's like, why does it matter? Now, for those of you that, I was talking with two different people yesterday, Jesse and Eamon to be specific, and they have an S Corp. No one knows who you are, Jesse and Eamon. They have an S Corp and they don't need to have a secondary office, and they have a legitimate home office, as in it's the only place that they go. That's where they conduct their business, administrate their business. If they got to meet with customers, it's going to be there, if not the coffee shop. Like legit home office, okay? If they're paying rent from the S Corp, from the C Corp, from the partnership, now they're an S Corp, but if they're paying rent and already have been doing it and have a lease and have been doing it on or before regularly February 15th of 2020, then yes, they can take, now hang on, they can take the rent that they're paying, in this example, from the S Corp to them personally, related party, but only to the extent of the mortgage interest on their house, and only then to the extent of the fraction amount of mortgage interest allocated to that portion of the house used as a home office. So if that S corporation is paying $1,000 a month in rent, it is only going to be able to deduct the S corp or include the rent to the extent that, and let's go back to this example that, let's say they're using 10% of their house for the home office. Then they can take 10% of their mortgage interest, okay? And then the rent being paid from the S corp down to the individual would be includable in the PPP forgiveness to the extent of 10% of their mortgage interest. And you got to remember, it's for the month. You might go, well, I'm paying a lot of mortgage interest every year. I'm paying, 14 grand of mortgage interest a year. That's $1,400. No, okay? If you're paying 14 grand a year in mortgage interest, okay, you're going to take that into a monthly or weekly amount, okay? And you're going to take that times 10%, and whatever your covered period is, it's nil. Part of the reason I'm just going through that is that for whatever reason, sometimes you come across stuff like this and then people, their minds start going into overdrive. Well, can I include this and can I do that? And all I'm trying to tell you is there's no reason to go into overdrive on this. You might have been sold a hill of beans, so to speak, that this was, oh my gosh, it's such big news, home office included. Yeah, it's a little mind-boggling that they're allowing it because it's complicating the whole factor, and the SBA came out probably a month ago and made it clear you couldn't if you officed from home. So the FAQ is now saying, you know what, we'll let you have it to this extent. And the reason they're having to do it is they have to follow the consistency of what they're doing with other related parties. Okay? So maybe you can come up with, $200, $300. But the good news self-employed, you don't even need it. So I'm not knocking that they're allowing it. What I'm saying is you shouldn't even have to worry about it because your forgiveness should be equal to your loan. All right, on these new FAQs, check them out. I'm going to have another video coming out because the SBA has had another set of FAQs that they just keep adding another one to. I think you know which ones I'm talking about. I think they're up to 51, and they added to that recently. So I'll do another video covering that one there. So there's a lot more pages to this, kind of giving the history and then how it comes into play and all that good stuff. But that's really the meat of these latest FAQs from the SBA related to PPP forgiveness. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Looks like it's raining out there. Oh, they turned the fountain off. This fountain here, this lake goes back around pretty far. So I'm pretty lucky. There's just 3 buildings here, 3 office buildings, and then over this way is a really big community. And so this lake is technically the community's, ran by their HOA. We don't even have to pay a dime. They stock it with fish, but they control the pond. And they, during Monday through Friday, they only run it for a couple hours. On Saturday and Sunday, they run it all day. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. If you're not a subscriber and you've made it to here, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you got some good value. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. All right, hey, have a great day.
The CPA is here, been doing this for years.
Hi, this is JJ the CPA, and
A is for always, B is for B. Now C is for closing, cause money never sleeps.